that time.
Nice try, Tyler.
A little bit of Swell season Smurf radio.
That's right.
That's right, Ben. That's what I'm talking about. How's your pie, guy?
My pie's fine. Which we will get into probably
Later. At another time.
But this is a really special show that we are setting up because, in fact, for listeners' pleasure, we're not in the interview.
No, we have farmed out the work.
Smart people do to give it to smarter people to take care of.
Well, we're bringing on a reporter at large or journalist at large, I guess. Karen B. Song. She's been a guest on the show and a great
Mega
friend.
talent.
Super talent.
Native New Yorker.
That's right. And where she did a really awesome interview with Tara Ruttenberg.
That's right.
Who she's going to tell us all about. And welcome, Karen.
Hi, guys.
So,
actually, let me just correct what you just said. I really wanted Tara to come on the show and talk to you guys because I think you guys are amazing, and the interviews that you do are just so smart and so insightful and informed. So I really wanted her to come in, but she was only in town for 24 hours. She had a wedding. It was a Sunday morning that I was able to kind of catch up with her. So I just figured, let me record it, and here we are.
So glad you snagged her.
Yeah. No, we're psyched. I mean, our schedules get a little crazy. And to be honest, I think you can help bring a different perspective that we may not have and think of questions that we may not think of. So I think it was appropriate and it was just meant to be.
Thank you.
Why don't you set us up a little on this awesome
tell
interview.
us a little bit about Tara and then
and where you guys met.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me start by saying on the last show that I did with you guys, first of all, I was really sick.
Are you trying to go back and retcon some things you said?
No. So, you asked me if I had ever received any, treatment, a different treatment in the lineup because I'm a woman. And at that time I was like, I don't think so. But I total brain fart. Like I had just been surfing locally and I forgot what it's like when I leave home and surf somewhere else. And it always comes up. And it was like I went to Costa Rica to this one spot. And in the time that I was there wasn't a moment that I didn't get forms of aggression or just whack treatment, every single day. And also because when I see bullshit, I call it out or I just don't stand for it.
Yeah.
And that sometimes triggers guys, So when I was there, probably in the middle of my trip, Tara comes paddling out and we just start talking and I'm just like, wow, this woman is amazing. First of all, that we're all in this lineup together and it was pretty hefty conditions, which was really fun. And then we just started talking and she opened my eyes to this whole world I never knew existed, which is this academic conversation or academic pursuit about surfing. Like, who knew? Yeah. Well, now I know that Tyler was probably the progenitor of this all in high school.
Hijacking all of his reports to be related to surfing.
First of all, you might not have heard of the Groundswell Society. You should check them out, listeners too. The Groundswell Society. We have someone here, but Groundswell. I'm repeating myself here. Groundswell Society. They are a group of intellectuals that have a conference once a year, or used to have a conference once a year about surf culture, the meaning of sustainable tourism, the environment, all these other things. And it was really interesting. I never got to go to them, but it's out there. It's been there for a little bit. It's just, we're all hiding in the shadows. The surf industry doesn't want us to speak. I don't want to associate myself with it, but probably these other people, like your guest, your subject for this show, Tara, like, these people don't agree with everything that the surf industry and surf culture stands for, and they see a lot of the issues and some of the negative effects that surfing can have and call us out on it.
Right.
And a lot of the industry doesn't want to hear it.
Right. The industry has a very specific goal, which is to
sell more board shorts.
Exactly. So, and then also what came up for us in that context was this conversation about localism, because there were, Costa Rican locals there, but then there's this hefty expat surf community that, go there every season, every winter season or whatever it is, for many years. So there's a different sense of entitlement. Mm-hmm. And so there are all these interesting things at play in us as women trying to kind of carve out our space when every time a guy says something to us, the rationale for it changes, and we see it change in real time when their friend rolls up and it's
moving the goalposts.
It's constantly
hypocrisy.
And it's, overall the conversation is what we see on land as far as injustices, and whether it's regards to race or gender or whatever, we're just seeing it kind of exacerbated in the water. I think sports tends to kind of bring out everything in its extreme in a way that we can see it really clearly, because there's a lot of passion. It's very improvised. It's, and then also surfing is something we all love so much and want more and more and more. It's a bad addiction.
Well, we're all very selfish, and so we justify
exactly
the need to get more waves or to hog waves or to back paddle or whatever. We're always looking for something to justify it because we're not the bad guys. Everyone else is, and that's, I always find that really interesting.
And with the expat community, they're also a little older, most of them. So they're not getting as many waves as it, and it's
and
more
they're living
people
in another country where maybe society hasn't progressed in equality as much.
Right.
Not to say that we're even close to that here in a lot of ways, but so their interactions with people is still much, maybe more older or maybe, I don't know. They just haven't woken themselves yet.
And one last thing I want to bring up, this component that we didn't really talk about, is that when that kind of territorial way of claiming surf in the lineup, when that travels, so when, like, let's say Californians or Australians go to all these far off places, that community learns surf culture and etiquette through that. And usually these are people who are going there, traveling, and they're there for a week and want to get as many waves as they can, and they just break all the rules because they're going to be gone in a week, and they're entitled to it. They paid their plane ticket, they went that far to get there, and they deserve to have all the waves. And then that culture translates to a different kind of macho culture in this other far off land.
Absolutely. Well, bad habits get exported, basically.
Exactly.
And there's lots of documentation of this, actually, and lots of really good articles that have been written on surf culture exporting some of the negative habits. Like you look at Nias in Indonesia, which for a while, you had a big drug problem. You had a lot of local women who were resorted to prostitution to get money because of the surfers and their nasty habits and all these other things that come with it, and not being responsible travelers.
Ecotourism, surfari tourism.
Well, surf exploitation, surf exploitation, I guess you could call it. But so tell us how, with Tara here, like, how did this interview come about? What's like some of the key messages or takeaways you got from this interview?
Well, I wanted to talk to her because she's so much more articulate in these things. She studies this. She's getting her PhD in the decolonization of surf tourism.
Should we read off her resume here?
Yes, that would be great.
So I mean, let me pull this up here. So she's like, Tara Ruttenberg is a surf feminist writer and PhD candidate specializing in sustainable surf tourism. Tara's work has been featured in books like The Critical Surf Studies Reader, the Routledge Handbook on Latin American Development, and Lessons from Eco Laboratory, Environmental Governance and Economic Development in Costa Rica. And like, there's a lot here. We could keep going, actually.
Yeah, you can go to her website, tarantulasurf.com.
And what is that? Can you explain for our listeners? It's
basically where you can go to see all the projects she does, which is one of the sustainability, surf tourism sustainability projects she has in Mexico, and then surf tours she does for women, and all sorts of things. So I would recommend everyone check it out. She's awesome. She's so smart. And
it seems like she has her finger on the pulse of within surf a lot of the cross sections of gender, awareness on inequality, this sort of new face of globalism, and I think environmental concerns, and happy to have a woman pursue this because men have either taken up too much oxygen or haven't approached the subject with enough awareness. So thanks for bringing this to us, and let's do more of these stories.
Yeah, Karen. I think this is hopefully a start of some other pieces that we can all work on together.
That would be great.
Yeah,
I mean, I love surfing. It's such an intersection of so many different things. It's global. It's, different elements, the water, the wind, there's just so much to it. And
help us elevate it.
Well,
bring it to another level. So without further ado, we will now go into Karen's interview with Tara Ruttenberg. Karen, why don't you send us off?
What do I say?
Here you go, guys. Listen.
Wait, can I say this? How's your pies, guys?
Yes.
Very nice.
Yeah. How's your pie? How's your pie, guy? Yeah. All right. And we will set it off. And
since we're on your way to the airport. But I just think what you do is amazing. And when we first met, it was just a completely new world that you opened up to me. And I am so intrigued that there's all this academic study around surfing and some interesting conversations that I feel like, obviously through mainstream surfing, we don't see this. And I don't think I've ever seen any kind of, even cultural articles around what you're working on. So can you tell us some of your background and your, what your work is?
Yeah, thanks. Well, academically, my background has taken a few turns. I started out in undergrad in an international politics program and thought I would be a foreign service officer.
Wow.
And
That's
then,
interesting.
yeah, it was. And then kind of recognizing what that would have entailed, I quickly jumped off that ship and moved to Costa Rica, where I'm now living and have been there for the past 14 years. And in the meantime, I did a master's degree in international peace studies down there at the University for Peace. And that really opened my eyes to some of the more kind of larger systemic and structural issues related to colonization, related to capitalism, kind of this critical mindset on things. And since then, I've now gone on to begin pursuing my work in a PhD program and focusing on development studies and specifically on sustainable surf tourism.
So I think you're working specifically with the community as far as, for people who don't know, what does that mean in terms of sustainability in surf tourism? Because I imagine it could mean many different things.
Definitely. So it has a theoretical component that's aligned with a critical academic perspective, which means I'm interested in looking at the relationships of power and also processes of decolonizing ideas or decolonizing places or mindsets that are representative of those sort of dominant constructs. So what that looks like for me now is more on the ground, more grassroots. I'm working with the local community where I live in Costa Rica now. And we're getting what looks like a development sort of organization up and running. But what it is in practice is an experiment in exploring the relationships between strengthening your community economy as a way of resisting through creating alternatives to overdevelopment that we see in a lot of different surf towns around the world.
Right. And then with overdevelopment usually means there's great inequities. People lose ownership of not only their land, but also governance because there's all this money flooding in and then, of course, the destruction of the environment because it's kind of like they have no sense